Once again, welcome on in. Sit back, relax, as we continue with the Left-Right game by Jack Anderson. Part 5. Hi guys, it's been a long week, but I finally got my computer to post next log. Working overtime to afford both London rent and Christmas presents hasn't been fun. Anyway, I can't say much more since this log's one of the longer ones. I'll try and get the next one up a little sooner. Thanks for all your help. The Left-Right game, Draft 1. 11th of February, 2017. The next morning, everything's the same. It's strange. We're so blind to the quiet consistency in our everyday lives, only really taking notice when something changes. It is I stir a spiral of honey into my oatmeal and glance around the group. It's the notable lack of change that truly stands out. Since the previous evening, the atmosphere surrounding the convoy and the demeanor of each member doesn't seem to have altered in the slightest. The night has fallen short in its role as a grand meridian, failing to partition the past and future, and bringing with it neither perspective nor closure. It's as if yesterday has spilled like a toppled brush pot into the next morning, coloring everything with the same temperaments, fears, and divisions. Lilith and Eve sit facing each other, their legs crossed on a plastic ground sheet. Neither are saying very much, albeit for vastly different reasons. Oh, sorry. Lilith is still occupied by her own smoldering indignation, whereas Eve looks overcome with the subtle but pervasive dread. Neither has taken much food from Rob's stove, a decision I suspect Lilith made for the both of them. Apollo, Bonnie, and Clyde are across from me. Apollo is making conversation, attempting to revive his usual good humor. Bonnie and Clyde help him out, laughing at his jokes and smiling along with his stories. Blue Jay hasn't stepped out of her car all morning, eating her own rations and maintaining a welcome distance for the rest of the group. Her eyes meet mine as I look her way, and I'm treated with a sharp, sardonic dismissal. And Rob? Rob is attending to the practicalities of the road, serving breakfast, then topping up the Wrangler from one of the hulking jerry cans. It's clear the routine is comforting him. I can easily imagine this is how he deals with a great many problems. Compartmentalizing. Recasting himself as a blunt instrument engaged in a set of necessary processes. He's made himself too busy for grief, and will likely remain so until the feeling fades. As coping mechanisms go, it isn't remotely healthy. I should know. I'm doing pretty much the exact same thing. Clyde, could I get a few words? Clyde looks up from his food, a little surprised. You want me? Yeah, if it's not too much trouble. No, not at all. You want to do it now? I'm not too hungry. No, me neither. That would be great, thank you. Do you mind if we moved away from the stove? Clyde nods keenly, putting my bowl to one side. I take Clyde to the edge of the apple grove. Nobody looks after us. How are you holding up, Bristol? Getting there. How about you? I'm, getting by. So can I ask, why did you choose Bonnie and Clyde as your call signs? Well, it came pretty easy. We used to play Outlaws when we were kids. Time Bonnie stuck up a bank. Really? Well, no, it was an ice cream parlor, but Bonnie was pretending it was a bank, and then she ran in holding her hand like a gun. Told Mrs. Guilford it was a stick-up. Wow, that doesn't seem like her. Oh no, she was a wild child, always living in a story. Ways, we got free Sundays and a new nickname in town after that. And Maud told us about the call signs. It was the first thing we thought of. It's a good choice. I paused, letting the previous subject fade before launching into the next one. All things considered, it may be the last time me and Clyde are on such casual speaking terms. Bonnie told me she talked to the hitchhiker. Clyde's disposition shifts. There's a sudden alertness that wasn't there before, rushing to the fore in immediate response to my words. In the following silence, at the center of his wide-eyed stare, an educated guest suddenly became much more. When did she tell you? I'm sorry, Clyde. She didn't, you did. I can almost see the stone fall in Clyde's throat, the deep, burning embarrassment and hurt that comes from being deceived. From a close secret you held getting out into the world. I don't feel exceptional either. Lying to Clyde, bringing him away from Bonnie under the guise of an interview. Beyond the personal abhorrence, it also flies in the face of everything I've tried to be as a journalist. Clyde can't bring himself to talk, so I press forward. I think it might be best if you call Bonnie over here. Nodding vaguely, Clyde wordlessly shuffles back to Bonnie, whispering in her ear. She puts a hand on his shoulder and helps herself up. Whatever he's told her, she doesn't seem angry as she joins beneath the shade of the apple trees. I don't want to cause any trouble, and, Clyde's been looking for so long. I didn't want to turn back, I'm sorry. I just said 2 words. I wasn't talking to him, I was doing what Rob said, but then I just said bless you. That's all it was. That's it? Well, he thanked me and then he was just so easy to talk to, and I thought, well, I've already talked to him. What will a few more words do? She hardly said anything else. What about him? Did he say anything? Bonnie started to smile the same way she did last night, a drearily enthused expression glowing with reminiscent joy. He told me about this wonderful place. Wasn't it wonderful, Martin? Bonnie. Just a few houses by the sea. He made it sound so nice. Bonnie, please. What's wrong? I can talk about, right? When I look back to Clyde, his lips are firmly pressed together. His facial muscles tight. He's holding something back, but what slips through betrays a poignant dismay. It's all you talk about, Bonnie. You mentioned a few times after... And since Jubilation, you ain't stopped. Are you guys talking about Wintry Bay? Clyde grimaces and Bonnie grins when they hear the name. Are we heading there? The hitchhiker says it's on our way. I'm so looking forward to seeing it. I can't say I feel the same. Safe to say Clyde agrees with me. Before now, I'd only heard Bonnie mention Wintry Bay on 2 occasions. But it sounds like she's talked about it a whole lot more. I sympathize with Clyde for what he's had to deal with. However, the gross irresponsibility of his actions aren't lost on me either. Does Rob know? I didn't want to... You didn't want to trouble him? Or did you just not want him to turn you around? All right, really. Either way, you need to tell Rob before we hit the road. Clyde shuffles uncomfortably. I'm not going to do it for you, but too much has happened on this trip already. This place is dangerous, okay? There's no place for lies anymore. I hope that Clyde doesn't see the irony, given that I've roundly deceived him in the past 5 minutes. He nods, takes Bonnie's hand, and walks slowly toward the Wrangler. Rob is loading the last of the fold-up chairs in the back of the car. The conversation doesn't last long. By the end of it, Rob rests his hand on Bonnie's shoulder and sends them on their way. He doesn't look mad. Perhaps he just has other things on his mind. That's the second thing I've noticed today that's inherently non-journalistic. I'm supposed to be a fly on the wall for this story, a passenger, recording events with objective detachment without my own influence seeping into proceedings. In many ways, I wish I still was, but the stakes are higher now, and those secrets make for good editorial. They're also potentially damaging to the safety of the group. Following the incident with Ace, I'm slightly less concerned with an unbiased story that I am with getting home to tell it. Rob looks like he's about to make his morning address. The group wanders over, some more reluctantly than others, and gather around the Wrangler. First things first. I must say, well, tempers got a little heated last night. And I'm sorry for my part in all that. I want to thank you for coming with me this far, and if you want to turn back, well, that's just fine. Group stays quiet. If you're heading back, I'd say if you travel one by one, be sure to stay on the radios. Retrace the route and follow all the rules that applied when you were getting here. Now can I get a show of hands who's wanting to keep going on the road? I observe my compatriots closely. The definites will be Bonnie and Clyde, who have already implied that they want to continue. And also Blue Jay, who feels she has nothing to worry about from the road. Apollo is in the wind, and Lilith and Eve are probably a split vote. All in all, this could be the moment our convoy splits in half. Blue Jay throws her hands up lazily. Bonnie and Clyde particularly raise their hands. Apollo raises his a few moments later. Hey, I've come this far. That leaves Lilith and Eve. After sharing a brief glance with her friend, Lilith raises her hand and Eve follows suit, albeit with an air of trepidation. I'm surprised that no one's turning back after everything that happened yesterday, but it's clear everyone has their own reasons. I'm just glad I don't have to say goodbye to anyone. I set about trying to divine everyone's motives for continuing on the road, but I quickly stop when I realize everyone's looking at me. Yeah, I'm going that way. I gesture to the road ahead and raise my head redundantly. Well, okay. I guess that's everyone then. We got a fair way to travel today, but there ain't much to see. Just follow the rules and take things as they come, I guess. As we pull out, I start to feel a little restless. The sedentary nature of traveling is beginning to take its toll. I'm starting to feel overfamiliar with the Wrangler's passenger seat. I'm glad that I got a chance to stretch my legs last night. Rolling. Elysian cornfields span the roadside for the next 5 hours. Turns are few and far between. But Rob's attention never wavers. Only managed to grasp his attention briefly. Aren't Jeeps supposed to have poor fuel economy? They ain't the best. That's why I always bring gas along. It's just... the fuel gauge has hardly moved since we left this morning. You noticed that, huh? I was wondering if you were gonna. Why? What have you done to it? Nothing. It's the road. Makes fuel burn slower. Seriously? Ain't just that either. You finish your food this morning? No. Why? Hardly anyone did, except Apollo. The more you go, less you need to keep going. Okay. Wait, you said the road pushes against you. Yep. But now you're making it sound like it's helping us along. Yep. So it's hostile while also incentivizing us. That sounds odd to me. Sounds like life to me. Reasons to stop, reasons to keep going. I suppose that makes sense. Despite his well-documented obsession with the secrets of the road, Rob seems to have a strange laissez-faire attitude to its internal logic. It's like the road doesn't need to make perfect sense to him. Or at least he doesn't expect it to yet. As the fresh rural air drifts in through the windows, I lose myself in the hypnotic endlessness of the passing fields. I wonder how many eyes have seen these vistas. I wonder where we are, not geographically, but in a grander sense. Are we still in the world as I know it? Are we beyond, below it? Or have we just slipped through the cracks into some intermediate domain? Robe slows the car down to a crawl, a precaution he takes before most corners. My eyes wander gently back into the Wrangler, finally resting on the rear view. There's something behind us, a humanoid figure, shrouded in the soft focus of considerable distance. It staggers quickly toward the convoy, unsure on its own feet. Rob, what is that? Rob follows my gaze to the rearview mirror. His brow furrows. Something new. Rob grabs the receiver. Before he can make an announcement, the speaker splutters a static, followed by Eve's frantic voice. Guys, there's something behind us. Guys, something's coming after us. Blue Jay, can you see it? Blue Jay doesn't answer. I doubt she considers it worth her time. Squealing panic rings out over the radio as Eve calls again. I really hope Blue Jay dies soon. What? Wait. Is it from Jubilation? Guys! Stay calm, everyone. Let's pick up the pace a little. Rob lets his foot rest heavier on the gas. The Wrangler gently accelerates, with the rest of the convoy eagerly matching our speed. Who is that, Rob? I ain't sure, but we got a turn coming up. Let's just get ourselves off the road, see if he follows. The figure continues to stumble toward us. Its arms hang crookedly in the air, and as it comes into sharper focus, I can just make out there's something wrong with its face. Guys, speed up, please. Calm down. It's coming for us. I can sympathize with Eve's panic. I've had the luxury of traveling at the head of the convoy. I was the first to cross when that godforsaken pine was dropped across the road. Eve is now second to last, relying on 3 other cars to make their escape before she can follow. Ace had to wait for the rest of us, and it cost him everything. Now Eve and Lilith are 1 car closer to where he was. Its face! Oh my god, guys, please! Jesus, shut up. Hey, that is not helping. Rob, it's moving pretty fast. We stay the course, and I ain't caught up just yet. God, oh god, oh god. Warnings are cut short by the screeching of tires. Eve swerves out of the convoy's neat single file and onto the empty stretch of road beside us. The car accelerates past Bonnie and Clyde, past Apollo. I get a brief glimpse of Eve and Lilith as our windows align. Lilith is yelling at Eve, trying to get her to calm down. Eve is screaming into the air, the puppet of her own frenetic terror. The car shoots past us and down the long road ahead. Rob swears and picks up the radio. The figure continues to lurch toward us. Fair Amanda, Eve, and Lilith, stop the car right now. Lilith, slow down. Eve, slow down. Eve, damn it, you're gonna... I stare through the windshield as their car stops. Not a slow, grinding deceleration, but an unequivocal, immediate halt. Their bodies are thrown towards against the safety glass of the car as the car becomes utterly motionless. Rob, what's happening? I told him to be careful. I no longer need an answer. I realize that it's written in front of me, etched into the side of the road, a brief gap in the endless rows of golden corn, only a little wider than the Wrangler itself. A dirt track leads off to the left about 10 meters ahead of us. about 15 meters behind Lilith and Eve. I now understand why Rob was being so careful and why Eve should have been as well. They've missed the next turn. Fairman to all cars. I found the turn. Let's make it quick. Eve and Lilith, you stay in the car. I'm coming back to get you both. Rob flicks on his turn signal, preparing the group for the sharp left corner, and slams his foot on the accelerator. Lilith and Eve disappear behind a wall of corn as we pull down the dirt track. Rob keeps driving, till enough space is left for the rest of the group. Once they're all safely pulled in, Rob climbs in the back of the car, grabs his rifle, and jumps out into the path. I quickly climb out and follow behind him. We arrive on the main road. The figure has covered a considerable distance, finally drawing near enough for me to see what's wrong with his face. At a certain point, midway of its head, it's Ace, isn't it? Certain point, midway across the crown of the head, running in a straight line down past the cheek center of the jaw, the head simply stops. It's like the foremost section of the skull has been sliced cleanly off. It has bent inwards. Its entire face concave and shrouded completely in a deep shadow. A ghastly organic hood. It seems deeper than physics should allow. That isn't all that's wrong with the picture, however. The man's outstretched arms are bent in several places. Dark purple contusions blossom at every unnatural joint as if his arms had been broken multiple times. His leg is also bent to one side, the reason for the irregular walk that still carries him toward us. Rob looks shaken as he raises the rifle to his shoulder, bidding the figure turn around. The man ignores Rob's demands, continuing its march. Even when a bullet hits it square in the chest, the figure hardly slows down. We're forced to jump out of the way as it continues down the road. Eve and Liv cowering their locked car as it approaches. Fear shifts to confusion as the creature passes them by and continues down the road. It's as if it doesn't even know they're here. Rob breathes a sigh of relief, lowers the gun, and runs back to the rest of the convoy. The moment he leaves, my mind notes something peculiar. It's an utterly bizarre observation, especially considering the many unworldly facets of the retreating creature. There's something familiar about it, specifically its fashion sense. The shirt, the dirt-covered jeans, they aren't dissimilar to the ones I found in the brown leather duffel bag resting atop the block of C4. The shirt, reaching in my pocket, got my phone, I scroll through my list of contacts. As the man heaves himself down the road, I call the second number I discovered last night. The one in the Nokia's received call list, the number that likely belonged to whoever created the bomb and whoever was driving the car that day. A few moments and a ringtone disrupts the creature's silent walk. I end the call, realizing how reckless I've been and praying that the strange figure doesn't see my action as an excuse to turn around. I'm lucky. This time, at least. The dial tone cuts out, and the figure continues to stumble its way toward the horizon. The next thing I hear is a scream. Scanning for its source, I see Eve. Our door open, and with one foot out of the car, she's frantically pulling at her leg, seemingly unable to lift it from the tarmac. Eve, what's going on? Shaking figures, Eve clumsily unties her shoelace and lifts her leg into the car. Her boot stays in place. It's possible to make a slightly elasticity to the road below, a depression in the tarmac around its base. Slowly and steadily, the sole of the boot disappears into the road. Eve watches as the dark tarmac slowly sucks the boot down, enveloping the heel and dragging it beneath the surface. The thought comes to Eve the same moment it comes to me. We both fix our eyes in the back of the car, where the same soft indent is gradually developing around the tires. Eve's terrified scream is drowned by the blare of roughing engines. I jump out of the way as the rest of the convoy reverses to the corner and back onto the main road. Blue Jay, Bonnie, and Clyde, Apollo, and finally Rob pack themselves chaotically around me. Rob pulls out and approaches. Ain't pulled back yet? As soon as he asks the question, he sees the sight before him. Only the neck of each boot remains above the ground, sinking ever further into the tarmac. The rope gradually but voraciously churns in at the car tires, consuming the rubber and swallowing the lowest edge of the wheel cover. In the midst of such an impossible sight, all I can say to Rob is, "They're trying." Then Eve hit the gas hard. The engine growls at the road as it furiously attempts to reverse, the undercarriage creaking and groaning from the sheer mechanical strain. The wheels themselves, however, don't rotate an inch. The tires belong to the road now, taken by the unknowable forces that continue to drag them into the earth. The engine chokes, defeated, and I can see Eve screaming to her fists as the road calmly continues its work. Damn it. If we can't reach him, tell him to get on top of the car. What's happening, Rob? Bristol, tell him to get on the roof. Rob marches off to the Wrangler, and the rest of the convoy gather on the road just in line with the left turn, where we assume it's safe to stand. Everyone, saving for Blue Jay, looks on in anxious silence. Eve, Lilith, I need you to get on top of the car, okay, guys? We're sinking. Fuck, oh fuck, we're... Eve, I'm trying to tell you. Rob's working on something. You need to climb onto the roof of the car. Don't think about anything else. Open the door and wind down your window and use it as a foothold. Eve is still deaf with worry. Lilith doesn't hesitate. She places one hand on the upper rim of her open door, one foot on the base of the open window, her free hand palm down on the car's roof. The door rocks on its hinges as she puts her weight on it. One strong motion, she pushes herself backwards until she's sitting on top of the car. The tarmac has swallowed its way to the car's lower chassis. Eve stares, transfixed by the road as it pulls her ever closer towards it. Sarah, look at me! Lilith is crouching on the car's roof, her hand reaching down to Eve. Her friend's voice seems to be the only thing that can break Eve's fearful commune with the waiting abyss. She turns around, Lilith's hand a few inches from her face. Get up here! Her eyes brimming with tears, fought back by rapid, shallow breaths. Eve grabs Lilith's hand. Lilith gets a solid handhold against the lip of her own doorway and heaves Eve up onto the roof of the car. Eve shrieks a little as the door swings, putting all her trust into Lilith's grip. She joins her friend on the roof just as the roam consumes the lower edge of the door, spilling inside the car's cabin like magma. Damn it. They're too far away. Rob has returned from the Wrangler, rapidly uncoiling a braid of long, light blue climber's rope. I'd seen it resting in the back of the car during the trip, for once thinking that I'd see it used. Rob threads one end of the rope through her carabiner and secures it in place with a tight knot. He holds it to his side as he shouts to Lilith and Eve. Okay, listen. We only got one shot at this. I'm gonna throw you the hook, and you're gonna catch it and yank it taut, okay? Then you hook it onto something and climb your way over. Don't let it fall, okay? Lilith looks pale. She nods before clambering to her feet, stepping to the back of the car. Eve watches on, her hands wrapping around her legs. Here goes nothing. Rob begins to swing the rope over his head, a large undulating circle that levels out as the weight of the carabiner eases the rope onto a flat plane. I instinctively shrug down as the rope passes over my head, swing faster and faster, gritting his teeth, his face reddening with the towering pressure of a single throw. Rob lets the rope fly. It arcs in the air like a cast fishing line towards Lilith's outstretched hands. I watch it pass in front of her, the metal of the carabiner glinting it in the sun as it falls. She catches it, grasping the rope in her shaking hands. Despite her victory, I can see her face contort with sudden and striking panic. She holds the rope high over her head, staring wildly down at the road as she following her eyes. My heart falls. She caught the rope, but she didn't pull it taut fast enough. Even with Rob continuing to hold his end above his head. The rope had too much slack when it landed in Love's hand. It's fallen in a sloping arc, the lowest point of which has scraped against the tarmac. It only rests a few precious seconds before Lilith finds herself unable to free. It sinks into the ground. The rope starts to brush gently against Rob's finger before he throws it to the ground. Damn it! Okay, if I just got something else, something we can put down. The empty jerry cans? They could step on too unstable and we'd have to throw them perfect. Okay. The rope has claimed almost half the car now, eating up the license plate as the vehicle sinks lower and lower. Liv looks helplessly on as we deliberate, Eve crying her eyes out behind her. We could get a ground sheet. We got one that'll stretch. I'm going out there. Apollo's blank statement catches us all by surprise, turning in his direction. I note a direct and powerful confidence in his manner. They aren't going to last much longer. It takes a second for the rope to get you, but that's how they got so far ahead before they stopped. I drive out, they jump into my car, then we climb back. I ain't got no more rope. You got the winch, right? If I drive it out with bunched up on my lap, I can make sure it never goes slack. Then I hook it up to roof bars and we get the hell out of Dodge. You got the best car for it. But I should drive out there. You need to work the winch. Bonnie and Clyde can't climb back. He skips over his rationale for not choosing Blue Jay, not wanting to waste time on a foregone conclusion. What about me? I'm lighter, the climb back would be easier. But you can't help them when they're jumping over. We're wasting time, you know it's a good idea. Rob takes a moment to consider it, his mind fighting for a better solution. You'd better get back here, Apollo. Don't plan on hanging around there, Rob. Apollo grins before sprinting to his rover. Rob, wasting no time, runs to the winch, switches it to manual, and unspools the heavy-duty rope. His hands cross over as he drops each new length onto the ground. I turn back to Lilith. Did you hear that, Lilith? Lilith is huddled next to Eve, attempting to comfort her as the car's headlight disappears into the depths of the road. Her head snaps around when I call. What's happening? Apollo's coming out to you. You have to jump onto his car and climb back over, okay? Okay. She hurries back to Eve, grasping her friend's shoulders as she relays the plan. Okay, that'll hold. Rob's climbing down for the hood of the Wrangler. He's fed the winch cable around and through the lighting rig, ensuring a good level of clearance on the way out, and more importantly, for the climb back. The rope has been fed through Apollo's driver's side window. Bonnie and Clyde are helping to throw Apollo's baggage out of the trunk and onto the road behind him. The less he has to lose on this trip, the better. I'll set on over here. Okay, see you on the other side, Rob. Apollo slams his foot onto the accelerator. The Range Rover bolts forward and power toward the threshold. The engine roars as he rockets past the left turn and keeps on going in the territory beyond. In the few precious seconds he has, he crosses the distance between the terrified girls. The winch steams through the window and suddenly pulls tight. Apollo is thrown towards as the car comes to an uncompromising stop, roughly a meter's distance from Lilith and Eve. The impact looks brutal, but Apollo somehow manages to keep a hold on the rope, and inexplicably his sense of humor. I don't think I got the insurance for this. Clumsily, still feeling the after effects of the sudden stop, Apollo throws open his door and starts to climb out. Taking the slack, Rob. Attention fixed on Apollo. I hear the mechanical whir as the winch kicks into life. As Apollo climbs out of his car and up onto the roof, he affixes the hook at the end of the winch to one of his roof bars, securing it in place. A few moments later, the rope is pulled straight. Apollo steps down onto the hood of his car, his arms outstretched to the girls. It's a short jump, but they'll have to make it from a lower elevation. The trunk of the car already sinking to the ground level. Okay. Come on, I got you. We gotta move fast now. Liz stands up, helping Eve to her feet before stepping down onto the rapidly disappearing trunk. Okay. The yelps as she throws herself toward Apollo. Her front foot plants itself on the hood of the car, her other leg flailing in the air behind her. Apollo grabs her by the arms and yanks her to the car, holding her close to him as she gets her bearing on the smooth metal of the hood. She's stable. He lets her crawl up onto the roof, where she immediately looks back to Eve. See, Eve, nothing to it. Come on now. Oh gosh, this is gonna be end badly, isn't it? Eve paces back, her hands shaking as contemplates the jump. Fighting against her screaming instincts, Eve squeals as she steps across the trunk and makes the leap across. The toe of her shoe lifting off the car mere seconds before it descends into the murky black pitch of the road. Eve lands short of her destination. One desperate, grasping arm makes contact with Apollo's as her legs bang and scrape against the roof's grill, scrambling for any conceivable purchase. Apollo is wrenched sideways by the force of Eve's landing, thrown off balance by the unexpected application of her whole weight. The gut-churning moments that follow, Apollo tugs Eve up to his chest and wraps arm around her. His center of gravity passing over the edge of the car. The fall takes a lifetime. Wrapped in each other's arms, Eve and Apollo tumble toward the patient, ravenous ground. In the split second before he leaves the hood of the car, Apollo uses last inch of footing to push himself into a slow turn. The twist continues as they fall until Eve is looking to the road, Apollo to the pale blue sky. In one final action, Apollo pushes Eve's waist, holding her at arm's length. Apollo's back thuds into the asphalt, his head smacking audibly against it. Dazed and confused, he manages to hold Eve aloft, keeping everything but her feet from joining him on the hard ground. Quick, get up! Get back up! Quickly, get back up! Her face shredded by fear and guilt and sorrow, Eve stares into Apollo's eyes and whimpers. Collecting herself, she pushes himself off him, ripping out her laces and leaving a shoe and sock behind as she clambers back on the Range Rover. With every movement, she whispers a quivering apology. It's okay. Go on, it's okay. He repeats these two words over and over, till I'm not even sure who he's talking to. The road elasticates around him, dragging him into its depths. Eve looks back to him, her face cringing in misery. Bonnie raised her face and Clyde's chest, unable to watch the next few moments unfold. I'm so sorry. It's all right. Just get going. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt, really. Apollo's ear sinks beneath the road, entering a new world of perfect silence. Apollo sees the end nearing. Oh, God. Rob! I won't play his final moments for your benefit and ultimately for his. Before he sinks to the robe, Apollo asks for Rob to talk to his family. He wants Rob to tell them that he loves them. Rob nods, knowing that Apollo won't be able to hear his response. After a few cries of panic despair, Apollo's eyes and mouth are enveloped by the road. His screams are drowned by the thick, churning asphalt. Eve watches the rest of his body sink, while Lilith tugs at her sleeve, pulling her towards the roof. Come on, we've gotta go, Sarah, we've gotta go. I'm sorry. Whispering one last heartfelt apology to the air itself, Eve steps up with Lilith and stares at the cable. Okay, guys. Just get yourself across and elf down until you're hanging from the rope and work your way across. I got it. You ready? Looks to her friend. I don't... Just watch me, okay? Follow right behind me. The Range Rover's wheels have now disappeared. With every single passing second, the cable's clearance diminishes, and the angle between the roof bar and the Wrangler's light rig becomes steeper. They need to start moving now or not at all. He looks back to the length of the rope. I can feel her mind kicking back at the prospect. I can't... Sarah, we fucking have to, okay? Follow behind me. Wraps her arm around Eve, making her stiff, shivering frame before letting go and crouching down to the rope, slowly working her way under it, her hands clenching the cable, her legs wrapped securely around it. Lilith starts to pull herself along the rope, shifting her feet every few seconds behind her. She fixes her eyes on me as she drags herself to the halfway mark. Is she following? The asphalt swallows the Range for his lower chassis. Eve hasn't moved a muscle. The stretch of the black tarmac might as well be a bottomless ravine, the Grand Canyon. The idea of hanging herself over it mortifies her. Sarah, it's not as bad as it looks, please. Come on. Lilith crosses the threshold. Her knuckles are white as she continues to cling to the rope. Marches up to her and helps her down to his arms, coaxing her hands free by telling her that she's safe. As her feet hit the ground again, they give way beneath her. Lilith sinks to the ground, crying out, Sarah, come on, please. Please, Sarah, I need you here. Her shallow breast quaking with anxiety, Eve slowly crouches down and grips the rope, but surely as the asphalt consumes the license plate less than a meter below her. Eve lowers herself down. A clumsy desperation drags herself along the rope. She's left it late. Her back hangs mere inches from the hungry ground as she shuffles unevenly towards us, lifting her feet and swinging them up the rope, her arms straining to stay locked. I'm not gonna make it. You are. Keep going. The Range Rover's window is now disappearing. Inside the dashboard has been submerged. With every yard that Eve manages to climb, the rope ensures she stays close to the ground, even over the final few feet. My heart breaks the moment her foot slips. It happens almost too quickly to register. Eve frantically shuffles her feet along the rope. Her bare left foot gives way, swinging underneath her and kicking down to the ground. She tries to rise in time before discovering that she can't. No, please. Entirely off balance, she tries to pull herself up. However, with her lower legs seeping into the dark tar, her position can't be maintained. She falls, her body twisting as she falls into the road. Lilith releasing a terrible shrieking cry, Eve whimpers as the side of her rests against the tarmac, her cheek already subsumed. I'm sorry. No. Please don't be sorry. I love you. I love you, Jen. I love you too. Sorry I didn't. I'm so sorry. Tries to reply, but half of her mouth is sealed shut, encased in the creeping asphalt. Her short breaths finally melt into one long inhalation, as her nose and mouth are sunk entirely. One remaining eye take a final fleeting look at Lilith before vanishing. I look away from what is still to sink. The important things are already gone. Lilith collapses on her knees, a screaming torrent of grief. Expelled from her burning lungs, Rob is completely immobile, likely searching for something practical in which to bury himself. Bonnie and Clyde simply look lost as they turn their backs on the sinking Range Rover. Blue Jay's reaction surprises me. She stares into the tarmac, the smirk ripped from her face. Replaced by a familiar look of shell shock. She repeatedly mutters something under her breath, something that sounds like, "It's not real. It's not real." We stand in silence for what seems like an age, accompanied by the breeze and Lilith's gradually waning laments. After C's exercise that immediate torment, our screaming descends into a deathly stillness. Rob makes the first step to approach her. I can take you back home if you want to. No. No. Wipes her eyes as tears continue to fall freely down her cheeks. When she turns around, she looks enraged. No. I'm still going. I'm going to the end. You know I can't tell you when that'll be. Stands and glares at Rob, then looks over to Bonnie and Clyde. Are you guys still going? Do you have a seat free? The siblings look to one another. Bonnie nods. You've got a place with us if you want it. Is the door unlocked? Yeah. What the fuck are we waiting around for? Marches to Clyde's Ford and climbs into the back seat. She waits for us impatiently to finish up. Anyone else want to turn around? Rob looks to me and Blue Jay. Blue Jay sends a look of deep scorn his way before marching off to her own car. Bristol. The Range Rover has finally sunk. The robe has settled back into a hard, permanent surface. It isn't like Rob to offer me a ride home, and I feel overwhelmingly like I should take him up on it. But there are too many questions unanswered. Too many unchallenged mysteries weaved into the fabric of this road. Going back now wouldn't be a return, it would be a retreat. I'm still going. A few minutes later, the 3 remaining cars rolled down the dirt track, leaving another incomprehensible atrocity behind us. There's a part of me that can't believe I'm still continuing down this road. A greater part of me is astonished that no one took the opportunity to turn back. As Rob carries me on the next turn and the one after that, I realize we all have our reasons. I'd become obsessed with chasing the truth, as had Blue Jay in her way. Bonnie had her own unsettling motive for carrying on, and Clyde wasn't about to abandon her. Lilith had directed her smoldering anger and grief toward the road itself, seeking deliverance at its end. And Rob? As far as he's concerned, there's only one direction to go. Still, when I think of the sorrows that have already befallen us, and the potential for unspeakable ruin that lies ahead, I realize that no one in their right mind would continue down this road. I suppose no one is. That is the end of part 5. Okay, so now we gotta do just a 3-minute break, and then we will be right back to reading into part 6. So I will see you after our little commercial break. Okie dokie, and we are back. Oh, welcome in, Willison. Okay. Turn the music back on. There we go. Alright. Back to part 6. Hi, guys. Sorry it's been a while to get this posted up. I've been busy chasing leads with U.S. missing persons. I won't waste any more of your time. Log is below. If you have any information, then please send it my way. Thanks for your help, guys. It means a lot. To your dulcet tones. Oh, thank you very much. The left-right game. The 12th of February... The 12th of February, 2017. Silence used to be an absolute. That's something I definitely miss. Back in the real world, it would stand as self-evident that a group of people saying absolutely nothing by definition couldn't be saying any less. Maybe things are different on the road. Maybe I just never encountered it before. But it's clear to me now there are degrees beyond silence. A pervasive realm of deafening quiet which, following the loss of Eve and Apollo, our group has unreservedly embraced. Constricted out of our collected trauma, cemented with a cruel mixture of grief, guilt, and harrowing self-doubt, it quickly becomes apparent that this silence is stronger than all of us. The challenge of breaking it remains unmet for the rest of the journey. We spend the next few hours burrowing through a featureless corridor of maze. The stalks rise far above the Wrangler, leaving only a thin strip of clearly sky visible like the painted ceiling of a Renaissance church. I found myself glancing intermittently at the CB radio, half expecting, half hoping, for Apollo's voice to crackle through the speaker, bringing words of comfort or a much-needed attempt at levity. After I catch myself staring at the road for the 5th time, or at the radio for the 5th time, I decide it might be best to get on with my work. I plug my headphones into my notebook, and bring up the audio files I've recorded thus far and set about creating a very rough cut of our first day on the road. Apollo voiceover. Everybody knows Rob. Rob's the god. I listened through Apollo's first interview, making notes for the closing paragraph I'll now be forced to write about him. When I have everything I need to listen to the interview again, and then once more. It's not lost on me that I just want to hear his voice, to lose myself in a pleasant digital echo, far removed from the frantic screams that followed him into the asphalt. I listen to Eve's interview next. She bristles with excitement as she talks about our upcoming visit to Roswell, steadfastly attempting to recruit me to the effort. She had no idea what she was heading into when she stepped out onto Rob's front lawn. Then again, none of us did. The thin strip of sky is turning deep orange as I reach our encounter with the hitchhiker. It's chilling to hear his voice after the fact, to revisit the conniving, veiled pleasantries he employed against us. I cringe as I hear Rob's hand grasp my arm, ashamed that I let myself fall for the hitchhiker's trickery. Rob voiceover. You did good. Sorry for grabbing you. I just didn't want you to do something you'd regret. No, it's fine. I was going to... Do you know what happens if you talk to him? Not sure. Came close myself once a few years back. The way he looks at you when he thinks he's got you, I don't think I want to know. Rob, I paused the audio file, clicking back 10 seconds before pressing play again. No, it's fine. I was going to... Do you know what happens if you talk to him? Not sure. Came close myself once a few years back. The way he looks at you when he thinks he's... I certainly didn't notice at the time. I've been so shaken by my run-in with the hitchhiker, and so curious about the abandoned car, that I'd completely blind to anything else that had come my way. Maybe Rob misspoke. Maybe he meant to say weeks or months, but it was a mistake. If it was a truth carelessly uttered, Then Rob had some explaining to do. The left-right game was posted online in June 2016, less than a year ago. I glanced sideways at him, a wall of corn rushing past us as we approached the rest stop. Throughout this trip, every emotion Rob displayed has seemed genuine. The sadness, the anger, the concern. They tell a story of a man who cares deeply about the welfare of those around him. Yet at the same time, it's strikingly clear that there's something he isn't telling me. With every new piece of the puzzle, the car, the text message, the faceless creature with the ringing phone, I'm left with the dilemma of when to confront Rob Guthard with what I know. I feel I've gathered enough to bring before him, enough to demand an explanation, but there's no way I'd be able to truly verify his answer. I have a collection of strange and perplexing notions, lacking in the common thread that could bring me to any workable conclusion. If I'm going to confront Rob, I need to uncover that thread. Much like the great journalists of our time, I should know the answer before I ask the question. The Jeep pulls out onto a large green space, staring straight ahead. I found myself puzzled by the way the ground seems to stop, as if the horizon lies only 20 meters away from the car. As soon as the engine cuts out, I unbuckle my seatbelt, climb out and walk towards the grassy verge. The rest of the convoy pulls up behind me as I go. I stop a few steps short of the edge, realizing we found our way to the top of a sheer cliff. A sudden swing vertigo takes me, forcing me to take a few steps back. Doesn't feel like we've been heading uphill. The road has been level since jubilation, yet somehow I'm standing at the edge of a 400-foot rock face, ending straight downwards, the distant earth shrouded by stalks of corn. That's the truly strange thing about this monolithic precipice. On either side of me, the maze runs to the very edge of the cliff, and at its base, the endless harvest continues until it stretches beyond the darkening horizon in every direction. It feels like I'm standing on the cliffs of Dover, staring over a golden ocean. Its waves governed by the evening breeze. I wonder for a moment where it ends. Where it ends. Then, taking consideration of the world I now occupy, I'm starting to wonder if it ever does. A belligerent scream rips me from the view. The source of the noise is blocked by the wrangle, and the first thing I see as I circle around are the shocked, wide-eyed faces of Bonnie and Clyde. Once I make my way to the Wrangler's hood, my expression mimics their. Lilith has pinned Blue Jay up to the side of the Jeep, a locked forearm pressing her chest against the door. Her other arm has been grasped in Blue Jay's hands, desperately stopped before it can strike her across the face. The two of them yell through gritted teeth as Lilith struggles furiously against her, fine to cause her any conceivable harm. Get the fuck off me, bitch! Get off! I take a few steps over to Lilith as Blue Jay attempts to kick her away. Lilith, we can't do this. Jen... Lilith doesn't even register my presence as she continues her assault, deafening by the bubbling vitriol and ever-growling breath. Jen, we're not doing this now, not after... Before I can comprehend what's happening, I'm staring at the sky, my head knocked back by the force of Lilith's flailing elbow. A hot, raw ache radiates across my lower lip as I stagger back, raising my hand over my mouth. Before Lilith can continue her assault, Rob swings open his door and takes two short strides over at her. He puts one arm around the girl's waist and picks her up, carrying her safely but firmly over to Bonnie and Clyde's Ford and planting her back on the ground. I seem to always forget how strong he is. Damn it, this is not the time. Take it back. Blue Jay has lost her usual snide demeanor, yet aura still radiates an unbridled scorn. In response to Lilith's demand, Blue Jay looks back to her car and sits on the hood. She takes the Marlboros out of her pocket along with her lighter and ignites a cigarette. I imagine the burning embers are the only company she's comfortable to accept right now. By the time I look back to the rest of the group, Lilith has stormed away. What did she say? What did she say? I didn't hear it all. What did she say, Bonnie? I heard Heard something she said Lilith was, that we were complicit. Damn it, Bristol, can you... I watched Lilith as she sits on the grass and looks over the cliffside. She begins to cry. Yet I get a strong notion that it's not something I should interrupt. It feels like something between her and Eve. A final act of reactionary mourning reserved for them and them alone. Yeah, don't worry, I'll handle it. Okay. I'll cook us something up. An hour passes. Lilith grows slowly calmer, drifting from cathartic release into a cold, wordless melancholy. Finishing up my dinner, I make my way over to her. It's a strange view. Lilith looks up at me, her face falls. I cut you. I'm so sorry. It's fine. You should see the other girl. Yeah, I bet she looks like shit right about now. I help myself down on the cool ground, staring alongside Lilith in the ocean below. Blue Jay thinks I'm complicit in what happened to Eve. I heard. She used to think we were morons, now she thinks we're all in on it. It doesn't make sense. I think she has to believe this place is a lie. She needs it to make sense, and the harder it gets for her to rationalize, the more she... Anyway, she shouldn't have said what she said. She's just... I guess the word is troubled. She's a fucking... Not gonna say that word. It's a variation of the C word. Okay. She's right, though. I killed her, and I killed Apollo, too. I looked at Lilith, concerned, not quite sure what she means. Her eyes remain locked on the impossible horizon. Sarah, she wasn't cut out for this, and she knew. She wanted us to turn back this morning, but I didn't want to. That wasn't just your decision, Lilith. Yeah, it was. She followed my lead, always, through everything, and I knew why she was doing it, I knew. But I let it continue. Because it was convenient. Because it was easy. Because deep down I liked having someone around who jumped through fucking hoops for me. God, it's so fucked. Lilith rests her head in her hands. She was weak. She was anxious and shy, but that should be okay, right? We're allowed to be weak, but I made her come here. I dragged someone who couldn't swim into the fucking deep end, and the last thing I did was lie to her, and she fucking knew it. Lilith takes a few deep frayed breaths. What do you mean? I loved her, as a friend. It was always this one-way street. And I don't think she minded, but then suddenly she's vanishing right in front of me. She said what she said. How else am I supposed to respond to that? I had to say it right back, right? Maintains her composure as a steady stream of tears roll down her cheek. I don't know what I'd do in that situation. I could see it in her eyes, that she didn't believe me. I wonder how many people have died while being told, comforting lies. How many of them knew? I think you did the best you could, Jin. I think you did better than most. You don't need to tell me that Are you tired? Do you need to go to bed soon? No, I don't need to. There are some beers in Apollo's bag. Is that like looting, or is that okay? I think he'd want us to have them, as long as he got a toast. Lilith laughs briefly and finally smiles. She walks over to Bonnie and Clyde's car, returning a moment later with a 4-pack. We spent the next hour and a half slowly drinking them. Lilith can't muster the right words for a toast, so just say thank you to Apollo, raising our cans to the open air. We talk about his tireless humor, his attempts to keep us all up during our first night on the road, how caringly he spoke to everyone even at the edge of death. We talk about Eve as well, about the Paris misadventures, awkward college parties, and the future of Paranormicon. Lilith smiles and tells me there's always a place for me once radio dies out. After everything that's happened on the road, the night can't help but feel bittersweet. But for once, on a solitary cliffside in the middle of nowhere, it's more sweet than it is bitter. That may not be much, but at the end of an awful day, it's more than either of us could have hoped for. The next morning goes quickly. It's amazing how efficient a group of people can be when none of them feel like talking. Not only that, but breakfast has become a noticeably brief affair. I manage to get through a half a bag of trail mix before I find myself uncomfortably full. Rob's words about the road's sustaining properties ring in my ears as I look around the group. Everyone leaves their bowls half empty. Lilith hasn't eaten a bite. By this point, the launch protocol has been drilled into us. Despite our preoccupations and the fractious rifts developing between us, the cars line up like clockwork as they merge onto the road. In fact, the mood of the group seems strangely procedural. All radio contact starts with the stating of a call sign, followed by that of the recipient. The cars maintain an even, careful distance between one another. We've seen all too clearly what happens when the rules are neglected, and no one wants to take chances anymore. How far are we? From where? You haven't got to the end of this road? And you're still charting it. That's right. Well, how long until we get to uncharted territory? To be honest, not too long. What's going to happen once we reach that point? We're gonna keep driving. Till we get to the end? That's the plan. I won't judge you if you want to turn around. I'm sure you can talk someone into it. Could I talk you into it? Rob smiles. Afraid not. This trip ain't like the others. Road's kicking back like never before. I think it knows I'm coming all the way this time. What is this place, Rob? Rob sighs as he slowly takes the next left on a quiet rural T-junction. I think it's a stray thread, running off the spool. The radio crackles. Rob. Radio crackles. Rob, you just took the wrong turn. An instant drum of fresh panic hammers in my chest. I stare at Rob, and he stares back. I know he's feeling the same thing I am, though he's doing a much better job of keeping it off his face. He thinks carefully for a moment. No. I've been down this road before. We took a right last time. Yes. The turn before this one was a right, I remember. Firm end all cars. Thanks, Bonnie, for giving us the fright of our lives. We're on the correct road. No, that can't be. That's wrong. Morton, tell them. Our mistake, Rob. Let's keep going. Crystal. There's concern in Lil's voice. I lean over to my wing mirror, attempting to gauge the atmosphere in the car behind me. There's clearly some commotion between Bonnie and Clyde, with the latter attempting to remove gently the walkie-talkie from his sister's hands. The hitchhiker's having effect on her. There's something else, however. Past Bonnie and Clyde, past Blue Jay, an old dilapidated road sign made of withered timber, stand by the side of the road behind us. I can't read all of it as the peeling letters grow ever smaller, but I can piece together what it probably once said. Wintry Bay, 5 miles. We're gonna turn around, right? 1 second, Bonnie, I'll check the map. I promptly switch off the radio. Are we not passing through Wintry Bay? Rob turns to me, a puzzled look in his eyes. Through where? The wake of those two innocently inquiring words, my mind reels back to the morning of our third day on the road, watching Bonnie and Clyde wander over to Rob to confess their transgressions to the hitchhiker, the quiet conversation that passed between them, Rob's seemingly comforting response. I'd felt wretched in those moments. A few minutes prior, I'd tricked and deceived Clyde, yet I'd never once considered he might have done the same to me. Is it safe to pull over? What? Why? Is it safe, Rob? Should we then pull over? I switch the radio back on and grab the receiver. As I make a connection to Bonnie and Clyde's car, it's clear that an argument is brewing. Lilith is asking for me, a helpless passenger caught in the middle of something she doesn't understand. Bristol, to all cars, we're stopping up ahead. Seems acutely aware that I'm not messing around. As soon as we roll to a halt, I throw my door open and jump onto the dusty roadside, striving over to the rest of the convoy who were just trying to get out of their own cars. I'm conscious of a driving anger behind each step I take. You didn't tell him. Bristol, What's going on, Bristol? Rob marches up behind me, more than a little restless to get a grip on my motives. Clyde. Clyde looks around, circle of expectant eyes. When he delivers his answer, he's unable to meet any of them. Bonnie talked to the hitchhiker. Rob's expression shift, his confusion degrading into a solemn understanding. Damn it. You knew about this, Bristol? I told them to tell you the morning of the third day. I saw them go over to you. I thought they did. Bonnie thought you'd turn us around. Well, she was damn right. You seen what happens when the rules get broken. You should have told me as soon as you saw me and headed right back home. That was before everything. I didn't know this place was... The rules are the rules, Clyde. Is anything even wrong with Bonnie? He said she gets confused. Was that a lie? Clyde doesn't answer, avoiding Rob's glare. As I process what Rob's just said, I have to say I'm surprised by the deviousness of the two siblings. When I thought they were telling Rob about the hitchhiker, it appears that they'd instead told him that Bonnie was to some degree senile. It was a simple lie, but one that would adequately explain her odd behavior, draw sympathy from Rob, and most ingeniously prevent him from telling me about their conversation. A truth buried beneath an unpleasant lie. Its subject matter just uncomfortable enough to head off any chance of discussion. Still, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. We can head home if you want. No. Kip turns to Bonnie. She speaks in a tone more decisive than I thought her capable. The hitchhiker, is talking about it. The village just passed. Looking forward to seeing it, that's all. I'm okay, really. You've been talking about it an awful lot, Bonnie. Sound like a lovely place. Sad that we passed by it. Sorry for ruining everything. Please don't make us turn around, Rob. Rob stares at them both. His position has been made crystal clear. We're stopping a little early today. Come the rest of the way with us. Rest up, then tomorrow you both go home. If you count yourselves lucky, you get the chance to turn around. Rob marches back to the Wrangler, signaling the discussion is over. Lilith, you're with us. Lilith doesn't even try to relief as she shuffles away from Bonnie and Clyde and climbs into the back of the Jeep. It's a little heartwarming that Rob still has the awareness to look out for her, angry as he may be. As well as his surprising strength, I also tend to forget how perceptive he can be. Bonnie and Clyde and Blue Jay climb back into their respective vehicles. I catch Bonnie's eye the moment before she returns to the Ford. She appears truly disappointed, but otherwise resigned to keep going, satisfied to let Wintry Bay fade into the distance. It's comforting to hear that she's ready to put the place behind her. It's just a pity I don't believe a word of it. It was fucking weird, Bristol. Wolf seemed happy to the Wrangler, enjoying the sense of security the modded behemoth affords, and also greatly relieved to be away from Bonnie and Clyde. She'd spent the last 5 minutes detailing the 30-second argument that unfolded between them, charting its disturbing nuances as well as its eerie conclusion. But I swear she was basically like crying, like she didn't understand how we could go the wrong way. But then, like, as soon as you pulled us over and she just stopped, stopped. That must have been disconcerting. You have no idea. Rob, when are these cornfields gonna fucking end? Soon. We're gonna rest up for the night in a few turns. Then tomorrow, it won't be long until we're on a track through the woods. The fucking woods? Are you kidding? Are we talking like Sleepy Hollow bleeding trees or what? Wish I could tell you. Wait, what do you mean? I ain't been that far yet. It's new territory. Oh, great. Maybe the cornfields aren't so... It goes quiet, transfixed by something in the rear mirror. The Ford quickly turning to get a better look of the back window. The car behind us is out of control. Bonnie is fighting to wrest the steering wheel from her brother. The Ford swerves erratically behind us, driven mad by the dynamic power struggle taking place inside it. Rob sharply accelerates out of the way as the behind lurches drunkenly to and fro before skidding to a shuddering halt. Rob hits the brake hard. And by the time I've turned direction, he's already slammed the door of the Wrangler, storming across the tarmac to Bonnie and Clyde. Cut the engine. The Ford's engine goes silent, and in the absence of its rumbling growl, new sounds emerge. The sounds of a struggle and of wild, desperate screaming. Stepping out of the car for the second time today, I jump onto the road and cover the distance between us. Rob is attempting to pull a screeching Bonnie from the car. Even with his impressive strength, it seems to be a challenge. Bonnie claws the walls, trying with all her might to regain her grip on the steering wheel. Please! Please let me go! Let me go! Rob extracts Bonnie from the car and attempts to subdue her, amidst a flurry of flailing hands and elbows. She writhes and kicks as he pins her arms to her sides. Bonnie, calm down, okay? Let's talk this through. He told me it was on our way. He said we passed through. He lied, Bonnie. No, we're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. Bonnie lashes out again, striking at Rob's leg with her own. Rob holds her firmly, his teeth gritted through every impact. It's clear that Bonnie isn't going to let up. I run back to the Wrangler and open the trunk. After a few moments of rummaging through my bag, I find the first aid kit and pull out an open pack of white zip ties. Clyde opened the back door. Rob sees me standing with the zip ties. Even in the midst of Bonnie's incessant struggle, he looks at me with an almost questioning air, as if he's wondering how we ever arrived at this point, as if he's asking what we can really do what I'm wordlessly suggesting. Bonnie answers the last question for him. The slim fuse the distraction, she slams her head back into his nose, eliciting a disgustingly loud thud and a pained growl from Rob. Dazed and confused, his nose immediately fountaining blood, Rob manages to keep his arm wrapped around her. But it's clear this isn't going to be sustainable, and that she isn't anywhere close to calming down. Clyde has opened the door, stepping back and looking on like a frightened child as we carry Bonner over to the back seat of the Ford. I lean in before him, adjusting the headrest until it's pressed against the ceiling, ensuring that it can't be removed from the bracket. I then loop a zip tie around each bracket and fasten them. What the fuck is going on? Blue Jay has stepped out of her car, making her way towards us. I realize that to someone who is fighting not to believe in any of this, the following scene would appear at best a melodramatic farce, and at worst, as the attempted detention of an innocent and distressed woman. Sadly, I don't have time to field her questions. I climb into the car, Bonnie working constantly against us as Rob eases after me, his hand on our head to prevent it bumping against the top of the door frame. When she's inside, I loop a second zip tie around the one I've already fastened on the right bracket, forcing her right hand inside it. I pull the plastic tab over the sleeve of her jumper. I hope it's not too tight, but at the very least it's secure enough to keep her in her place. Rob continues to pull against the zip ties. It's clear her strength has been sapped from her spirited battle with Rob. Not quite able to look her in the eye, I push a pile of luggage out of the way and climb on the other side of the Ford. Rob and I are both getting our breath back, the former pinching his nose and adjusting stoically to the fresh pain. Hey, what the fuck are... You're not gonna leave her like that, are you? Get back in your car, Blue Jay. I walk back to the Wrangler, tuning out Denise's coarse protests. Rob reaches in the Jeep's still open trunk and pulls out a pile of blankets and pillows. In the rearview mirror, I see him placing them on Bonnie's lap, leaving a place to rest her elbows. She leans her forehead against the back of the headrest. Even with her face blocked from view, I can tell she's crying. Arrive at the rest stop some 20 minutes later. The vague outline of a deep green forest blooming on the horizon. It's early in the day that we would usually stop. Rob tells us he wants the entirety of tomorrow to chart the woods, as well as good time to turn back before nightfall should the need arise. I'm not complaining. I'm glad at the chance to rest up following today's events. For the rest of the day, we take in turns to keep an eye on Bonnie, making sure she has everything she needs. When the Ford pulls up alongside us, Lilith, Rob, and I expected to see a quivering wreck, tugging ceaselessly against her bonds. We were all surprised and more than a little disturbed to find her smiling. By the time my turn comes around, the sun is already dripping in the sky. Rob has prepared a small pot of miso soup, in case anyone can bring themselves to eat. I finish my bowl, all too aware of how unnecessary each meal now feels, and pour out a helping for Bonnie. I find her in good spirits. How are you doing, Alice? I'm fine. How are you, Linda? I'm okay. Sorry for giving you all such a fright earlier. I feel terrible. It's fine, honestly. I'm sorry about all this. I gestured to the zip-tied restraints. Rob has reapplied them, fastening bandages underneath the straps to afford Bonnie a modicum of comfort. So the scene rings with a sinister barbarity which no kind consideration can make up for. It's okay, I wasn't myself. I have brought you soup. I know you might not be hungry. It's an act. I don't trust her. No, I'd love some. Everyone's being so lovely. Well, we just want to make sure you're all right. Submerge the spoon. Drench up a measure of warm broth and to raise it towards her. Oh no, you don't have to. I can feed myself. She drew her bound hands, the clear implication hanging in the air. No, I don't mind. I think it's... Bonnie throws her weight sideways, her elbow jamming towards and hitting the bowl out of my hands. Soup spills over my fleece. It's a little cooler than the scalding hot. It soaks immediately in the fabric. Back away reflexively and watch Bonnie's expression flicker like the light bulb from kind tranquility to utter burning contempt. It's gone as quickly as it appears, just in time for the rest of the group to look our way. What are you doing to her? Blue Jay storms across from her car, angrily drinking from a Marlboro and forcing the smoke laconically back into the air. Nothing, just an accident. It's okay. It's okay, Blue Jay. It was my mistake. Did she get any on you? Blue Jay leans in, placing her hand comfortably on Bonnie's, before turning to fix me with a murderous stare. It's almost impressive how, even when caring for someone, Blue Jay still manages to be simultaneously venomous to those around her. No, it's okay. It was my fault. It's fine. I'm for causing trouble. Laughs at Bonnie's apology, unable to believe what she's thinking. Her eyes remain fixed on me. You're a coward. Look what he's making you do. Look. My eyes follow where she gestures. I have to admit, the helpless figure of Bonnie, restrained in the back seat of the Ford, rings with an innate inhumanity, and being forced to stare my actions in the face makes me feel utterly ghoulish. The choices I've made must seem insane to Blue Jay, but that doesn't mean hers are not. Despite her pretensions of rationality, I can't help but feel that Blue Jay's actions are simply being governed by a different insanity. An insanity born out of the desperate need to explain the unexplainable, which has morphed into an ugly cocktail of paranoia, self-grandeur, and fervent antagonism. Blue Jay notes my silent expression, most likely taking it as a personal victory. Without another word, she returns to her car and shuts herself inside, festering silently and alone. Do you want to know what's wonderful, Alice? Bonnie leans toward me, lowering her voice so no one else can hear. He told me there's a home waiting for me, my home by the sea. I'm sorry, Bonnie, I don't think there is. It's going to be a wonderful place. Such a beautiful place. Bonnie flashes me a broad grin. It's been lovely knowing you, Alice. Yeah, that's not good. Bonnie turns away from me, placing her head back on the headrest. The grin doesn't fade away as I turn away. Back to the Wrangler, faced with the choice of changing into new clothes or my thermal pajamas. After removing my fleece and lying down for just a moment, I end up sleeping in the clothes I'm wearing. When I wake up, the Wrangler is moving. The air mattress reverberates and my body rocks as we make a sharp U-turn. I sit bolt upright, Lilith waking up next to me, similarly bleary-eyed and confused. Rob is behind the wheel. The gear stick shakes as he transports us down the road at incredible speed. Rob, what's happening? Bonnie got herself free. She's headed for the turn. I pull myself into the passenger seat, suddenly wide awake. What? How did she get free? Is she with Clyde? She hit him over the head, dragged him out of the car. I couldn't wait for him, but he's catching up. Lilith and I turn around. Blue Jay's car is gaining on us. A distant pair of high beams steadily drowning the rear window in light. Why is Blue Jay helping him? She probably wants to keep an eye on us. Rob, do you think we'll catch up with Bonnie? I'm working on it. The Wrangler continues to rocket through the darkness. We keep our eyes fixed forward, scanning the very edge of the horizon for any side of Bonnie's Ford. And Blue Jay pulls alongside us. I get a look at the pair. Blue Jay is naught but steely determination, dedicated to reaching Bonnie before we do. Clyde looks mortified, rocked by his sister's actions. A small contusion on his head to mark her vicious betrayal. Rob screeches to a halt once we arrive at the junction. Blue Jay's headlights are already illuminating the road to Wintry Bay, and Rob's lighting rig coats the entire in artificial twilight. In the middle of it all, we see Bonnie standing next to her car, smiling. She's already beyond the threshold of the turn. Linda, please, come on back now. You can all come with me. There's a place for all of us. He told me there's a place for everyone. Please, Linda, you have to come back. A strange trail of black dust is streaming off Bonnie's skin, rising into the air and dancing in the breeze. After a moment, it becomes clear that the edges of Bonnie are slowly degrading, converting quietly into dark ash and drifting into the atmosphere. I love you very much, Martin. You're always welcome. No, please, please. Bonnie turns around and climbs into the car. Without looking back, she pulls away down the road to Wintry Bay. The trail of the black particles rises from the Ford as she goes, with greater and greater volumes as the entire car starts to wither away before our eyes. Less than a minute later, the Ford, with Bonnie inside, gradually dissolves into dust and scatters to the winds. Clyde doesn't speak. His entire being is quiet. Lilith immediately runs back to the Wrangler. Rob waits a while, staring at the dancing cloud of dust, before putting his arm around Clyde and gently escorting him to the Jeep. As I turn away from the road to Wintry Bay, I take note of Blue Jay's reaction. She looks absolutely petrified, more so than I'd ever seen her. She impulsively removes the pack of Marlboros from her pocket and holds them in her hands, before quickly returning them unsmoked. The night passes slowly after we return to the rest stop. All of us are exhausted, and more than willing to surrender to the escapism of sleep. Rob rests in the driver's seat, giving up his space to the air mattress to Clyde. Everyone drops quick enough to a quiet slumber, leaving me awake with only my thoughts for company. I find myself thinking of Blue Jay, of how she could possibly hope to rationalize the disintegration of Bonnie in her car. I wonder how I'd feel if the left-right game was exposed as some unparalleled magic trick. Would I feel foolish? No, I don't think so. Impressed? Maybe. Relieved? Most definitely. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I miss the innocent days when I believed the game was a hoax. I suppose I see why Blue Jay is so adamant about dismissing this place. Trickery, however elaborate, is almost always a preferable alternative to genuine horror. The Jeep's door opens and shuts. Part of me tries to ignore it, to wash my hands of any other developments in the harrowing night. However, exiled as I am from the kingdom of sleep, I slowly find myself sitting up. Quietly putting on my boots and letting myself out, I step out in the cool night, observing the figure before me. Where are you going, Clyde? Clyde turns to face me. I initially interpret the look he gives me as one of resignation, but the word doesn't quite fit. Resignation is a defeat. The world exacting compliance from you against your own wishes. But the man before me is as calm as the night air around him. His wishes are clearly his own. There's no defeat in his eyes, but something else entirely. Peace, maybe. You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going, Alice. Clyde speaks softly, a quiet conviction behind every word he says. I briefly glance towards the Wrangler, wondering if I'm really equipped to handle this on my own. Don't call Rob. I made a mistake coming back to the rest stop. I shouldn't have done that. Please, just let me go. Clyde, just wait for tomorrow, okay? He'll understand. He'll turn us around and take you home. It won't be home anymore. Clyde's gentle stare renders me silent. Linda had a husband once. He was a good man. Died young. She could never bring herself to go looking again, and I never found who I was looking for. We've been by each other's side for 60 years. 60 years. I gotta be honest. Even after all we've been through, everything you and I have seen, I never felt like I was in a new world until now. I don't think I can let you do this, Clyde. I'm sorry, Alice, but it's not up to you. Clyde breathed in the cool night air, exhaling through his nose. I yelled at her to come back when she ran off to rob the ice cream parlor. I kept calling out and calling out. I spent so much energy trying to get her to come back to me. After a while, I realized she wasn't coming back. I'd have to follow her. I should have realized it earlier. That's all I can do. Follow where she goes. Clyde looks at me, almost apologetically. Goodbye, Alice. He turns away from the convoy and wanders back down the road. Clyde? He turns around one last time. Do you want company? It takes roughly an hour for us to walk back to the junction. The time we have, I'm treated to the story of Bonnie and Clyde. The warmest fragments of their life together. The moments that built them. The waves that rocked them in the places they once called home. I don't think I'll ever agree with what Clyde is doing, but the more he talks, the more I understand. His story spanned more than half a century, supported by a transient cast of acquaintances and friends, but the core of each tale is but at the core of each tale is a pair of siblings who meant the world to one another. The pair existed as two relative souls, quantifiable only in relation to each other. In the absence of one, the remnant was indefinable, a drifting point, unanchored in space. The story ends just as we reach the junction. I hope she's out there. I hope so too. Thank you for coming with me. I know it's late. No, it's never a bad time to see a friend off. Clyde smiles at me one last time before turning to face the road. He steps over the threshold, past the wooden sign. The silence of the night. I hear nothing but his soft footsteps and the quiet breeze, which after a few minutes carries the last of him into an open sky. It's a long walk back to the convoy. My mind is numb to fear as I make my way through the dark, the corn rustling in the wind beside me. It's been 4 days since I arrived at Rob Guthard's house, sat down at his table, and listened to him speak about the new world he's discovered. And that time, I've seen things I can't hope to comprehend, sights that exist beyond the spectrum of our reality, things I wouldn't have deemed possible. For all I know, there is a wintry bay, and Bonnie has already arrived at her house by the sea, standing at the door, waiting with quiet confidence for her brother's arrival. I may never know, but I do hope they find each other, wherever they may be. That is the end of part 6. So let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end tonight, but it's just my full intent that we will be finishing this up next time, which unfortunately will not be next week, as I will be out Tuesday through Friday. So, although, no wait, that wouldn't work out. Yeah, so it'll be, unfortunately, it'll be next Tuesday, which is, that will be the 3rd of December. But I am really enjoying this story, and I hope y'all have been enjoying it with me. Yes. To see y'all next time.